making vows. Children of the Father, down in, and I don't get ahead of myself, but down around verse 47, this question, the Lord asked this question, and if you salute your brethren only, what do you more than others? Do not even the publicans so. So, what do you do more than others? He asked the question. And what he said, we have to measure ourselves not by others, but by the Father. We measure ourselves by the Father. He goes on in verse 48 to kind of clarify some of that. But this includes our words. Very important. We preach and teach a lot about words. You know that the life and death is in the tongue. The power of life and death is in the tongue, the Bible teaches. And so words are very important. Now, do I think that you can just speak things into existence? I don't go, that far that route. There are some things you can speak into existence if you keep talking the wrong thing long enough, or you keep talking the right thing long enough. There's some things that can come to pass because of that. But anyway, that's another teaching altogether. I do want to mention very quickly what the Lord don't want to get out of context. I want to go into what the Lord is talking about here, and that's fodder for another time. So the letter of the law says no oath taking. The spirit of the law says this: speak the truth. Look at verse 33. Again, you have heard that it has been said by them of old. Now, you ever wondered why he started talking about taking oaths right after the divorce issue? I think in context we can see why. Again, you have heard it said by them of old, thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say to you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it's God's throne, nor by the earth, it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, it's the city of the great king. Neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because you cannot make one hair white or black. But let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, for whatsoever is more than these comes of evil. Now, the Pharisees developed elaborate rules governing vows, and only those employing the divine name were binding. In other words, if it included God's name, that was a binding vow. Now, Jesus comes along here. He teaches that a vow is binding regardless of whatever form was used. And when you give your word, you give your word. When you make a vow, you make a vow. The use of oaths, in essence, is really unnecessary when one's word ought to be sufficient. Your word ought to suffice. We live in a day and hour when that's no longer so. That's why we have to sign contracts. Almost everything that we agree to, everything we do, you got to sign on the dotted line. Why? Because people have forgotten that their word is supposed to be the bond. Used to be a time men shook hands, gave their word on a matter, that settled it. That was it. You kept your word. And that's kind of what Jesus is advocating here. It should be enough, especially as a Christian, especially as a believer, as a Christ follower, it should be enough to give your word on something. To just let your word be your bond. Oath-taking actually is an implicit confession that we don't always tell the truth. Or we would have to take oaths. Even as a kid growing up, how many times did you say, or your friend said, I ain't lying? They'll say something, I ain't lying, Bo. We say all the time, I ain't lying. Where do we get that from? Because people got the habit of lying, so you had to clarify, I ain't lying. It may seem far-fetched. It may seem not to be too truthful, but I ain't lying. That's true, But you shouldn't even have to profess that if your word is your bond. The Lord is emphasizing honesty over dishonesty. He's emphasizing, as a child of God, being a Christian, being a believer, he's emphasizing honesty over dishonesty. That word forswear, he uses that term there. He says, where was it? Didn't I read it? Yeah, in verse 33. Thou shalt not forswear thyself. Forswear means to swear falsely. In other words, perjury. Now, he goes on about making vows by heaven and by earth or anything else that we have no power to change. That's forbidden. That's why he said, don't swear by heaven. How many times people say, I swear to God? Don't swear by heaven. Don't swear by the earth. I swear by my mother's grave. That is forbidden. Why? Because those are things you and I have no power over. We have as much as what the climatologists and all these, and Al Gore, and all these left-wing nuts want to try. Well, they ain't wing nuts. They're making money on this deal. You bet your bottom dollar. They're making money on this deal. But I don't care how much they talk about, oh, we got to do this to save the earth. We got to do that to save. There ain't nothing man can do to save the earth or destroy the earth. Only God can do that. Oh yeah, we can have an effect on some of our local environments and things like that. But what I'm saying is we don't have power enough to cause the environment to shift and to change like they've been talking about all these years. Climate change is always taking place. Did you know the CEO, this is ridiculous. I don't know if you read this week or not. If you follow me on Facebook, you had to see, because I think I reposted something concerning this. The CEO of Target. Now, they've already got over 1 million, pushing 2 million people boycotting Target stores right now. Their sales or their stock plummeted. Not in the millions, in the billions of dollars. And you know, rather than the CEO fess up, because all this has taken place since the boycott began. Now, the boycott might not be responsible for all of it, but I can promise you it's had an astounding effect on it. And the CEO, you know, instead of blaming it on the boycott, he blames it on